Ever feel like you did everything right? You climbed the ladder, you built the career, you bought the house, raised the family, checked every box that was supposed to guarantee happiness. And yet, something's off. There's this low hum of discontent running underneath it all. A quiet ache you can't quite name. On paper, your life looks solid, but inside it feels like you're waiting for something that never arrives. That feeling isn't a failure of gratitude. It's not weakness. It's something much deeper, something built into the story we were all told about what happiness is supposed to look like. Because what if the story of the midlife crisis, that predictable, inevitable crash in your 40s, is a lie? For decades, we've been told that unhappiness in midlife is normal, even biological, that at a certain age, you just hit rock bottom and have to ride it out. But new research has turned that story upside down. The truth is stranger and more liberating than the myth ever was. Today, we're going to dismantle the happiness lie that's defined a generation and uncover the hidden psychological, cultural, and biological forces that are actually shaping your discontent. Because what's happening in your 40s isn't a collapse, it's a confrontation, and if you understand it, it can become the most meaningful transformation of your life. Section 1. The Anatomy of a Lie, the Myth of the Midlife Crisis. To understand the lie, we need to understand how convincing it was. For decades, psychologists and economists alike pointed to one striking pattern, the so-called U-shaped curve of happiness. It was elegant, logical, and oddly comforting. The story went like this. We start adulthood fairly happy, hopeful, ambitious, full of potential. But as we hit our 30s and 40s, life satisfaction begins a slow, unavoidable decline. The pressures of work, family, finances, and routine grind us down, until by our late 40s, we hit the bottom of the UA. Then, supposedly, the curve begins to rise again. As we move into our 50s and 60s, we regain perspective, we mellow out, we learn to appreciate life again. According to early research by economists David Blanchflower and Andrew Oswald, this low point of happiness in the developed world was astonishingly precise, around 47.2 years old. That number became a kind of cultural prophecy. It was neat, scientific, and symmetrical, so we believed it. The U became one of the most repeated patterns in modern psychology. It showed up in textbooks, think pieces, and TED Talks. It explained everything from burnout to impulsive life changes. The theory was so pervasive that it became the cultural lens for midlife. It gave us the classic cliches: the sports car, the affair, the career pivot, the desperate search for meaning. The midlife crisis became not just a pop culture joke, it became a diagnosis. And the story comforted us. It told us, this feeling you have, it's normal, it's biological, it'll pass. Some even pointed to studies on chimpanzees and orangutans, showing similar midlife dips in well-being, suggesting that even our evolutionary cousins feel it. That sealed the deal. If apes go through it, then how could we not? But here's the problem. The data was real, but the interpretation was flawed. The U made unhappiness seem like a natural law, like gravity, something you couldn't question, only endure, and that made it dangerous. Because once you expect misery, you stop resisting it. You stop asking why. You start to live according to the map instead of the terrain. And that's exactly what millions of people have done. But now the terrain has changed, and the map is wrong. Section 2. The New Map of Happiness. 3 hidden forces redefining your 40s. If the U-curve was the old map, what's the new one? Modern research has exposed something profound. Happiness has stopped following the traditional pattern. The world has changed, and with it, so has our emotional landscape. Today, 3 powerful forces are reshaping what it means to be human in midlife. Let's unpack them. Force in 1, the great happiness inversion. Here's the single most important thing you need to know. The lowest point of happiness is no longer in midlife. Across many Western nations, the unhappiest group isn't people in their 40s, it's people in their 20s. This reversal is what economists now call the great happiness inversion. The same researchers who discovered the U-curve are now revising it. In recent studies, David Blanchflower found that the old pattern has flipped. Young adults, once the supposed high point of well-being, now report record levels of anxiety, depression, and dissatisfaction. In the US, UK, and much of Europe, data from the 2010s onward show a sharp, sustained drop in happiness among those under 30. In many countries, happiness doesn't rise and fall in a curve anymore. It simply starts low and gradually climbs with age. This means your 40s may no longer be the pit of despair you were told to expect. In fact, many people are happier in their 40s today than they were at 25. Why? Because younger generations are struggling under pressures previous generations never faced. Economic instability, digital comparison, and an attention economy designed to erode peace of mind. Your 40s are no longer the bottom of the curve, they're the turning point, the moment where clarity begins to outweigh chaos. That doesn't mean midlife is easy, it means it's different. Your unhappiness isn't biological fate, it's contextual friction. It's not the bottom of a curve, it's the middle of a transformation. Force on 2, the expectation-reality chasm. If you feel disappointed in your 40s, it's not because your life is bad, it's because it doesn't match the picture you were given. From childhood, we were fed a narrative of linear progress. Work hard, check the boxes, and happiness will naturally follow. By the time you reach your 40s, that story collides with reality. You've hit many of the milestones, the house, the job, the family, yet something feels missing. Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy, the belief that achieving your goals will finally make you happy. But arrival is not the same as fulfillment. Happiness doesn't live at the destination, it lives in the direction. In your 20s, you're still chasing. In your 30s, you're still climbing. In your 40s, you start asking, was this the right mountain? And social media amplifies the disillusionment. Every scroll is a highlight reel of other people's imagined arrivals, someone's perfect family, flawless career, luxury vacation, all presented as evidence that they made it, and you somehow didn't. This isn't midlife crisis. This is midlife awakening, the realization that the life you built was optimized for approval, not meaning. You start to see how many of your choices were inherited scripts, not conscious decisions, and that gap between the life you were told to want and the life that actually fulfills you becomes the defining emotional challenge of your 40s. It's not a crisis of age, it's a crisis of authenticity. Force 3, the midlife compression. While your mind wrestles with meaning, your life starts to squeeze from every direction. This is the midlife compression, the most underestimated pressure cooker in modern life. Your 40s are a collision point of biology, responsibility, and exhaustion. Biologically, your body starts sending new signals. You can't run on adrenaline anymore. Sleep, recovery, and nutrition suddenly matter in a way they never did. For women, perimenopause reshapes hormones and emotions. For men, testosterone gradually declines. The body reminds you that vitality is not infinite. Professionally, this is the decade of plateaus. You may have hit a ceiling in your career, stable but uninspired. The ambition that once fueled you may have faded into fatigue. The job that once symbolized success might now feel like a cage. Personally, this is the age of caregiving. You're squeezed between generations, raising kids who still need you and parents who suddenly need you again. You become the emotional and logistical backbone of everyone else's life. It's no wonder so many people in their 40s feel drained, stretched, and invisible. It's not depression, it's depletion. And when depletion meets disillusionment, it mimics despair. That's the real cause of the midlife fog. Not biology, but burnout. Section 3, the way forward, forging a new path after 40. So the U-curve is a myth. The old map no longer applies. Where does that leave us? It leaves us in the most powerful position possible, freedom. You don't have to endure your 40s. You can design them. The key is to stop living by outdated stories and start creating your own. And that begins with 3 principles. Principle 1, tear up the old map. The most important step is to consciously reject the narrative that unhappiness in midlife is inevitable. Every time you hear that voice saying this is just how it is, remember that's not wisdom, that's programming. The midlife crisis is not destiny. It's a description of what happens when meaning and identity drift apart. Your restlessness is not a symptom of failure. It's feedback. It's your psyche tapping on the glass, whispering that there's more to you than this. When you stop seeing your discontent as pathology and start seeing it as potential, everything changes. You shift from passively enduring to actively evolving. Tearing up the old map is the first act of self-liberation. Principle 2, find your true north. The 86-year secret. Once you've rejected the myth, you need a compass. Fortunately, one exists, built from the longest-running happiness study in human history. The Harvard study of adult development has tracked individuals since 1938, following them from adolescence to old age. For over 8 decades, researchers have asked the same question. What makes a good life? The answer, after 86 years, is stunningly simple. Good relationships keep us happier, healthier, and help us live longer. Dr. Robert Waldinger. Not wealth, not status, not success, connection. People who were more connected to family, friends, and community were not only happier, they were physically healthier and lived longer. Loneliness, on the other hand, was as damaging as smoking or obesity. This isn't a feel-good slogan, it's data, and it's your new compass. When your 40s feel directionless, the way forward is not to add more achievements, it's to deepen your connections. Because the midlife ache is not about losing youth, it's about losing belonging. Connection restores that. Principle 3. Reframe the journey from crisis to chrysalis. Finally, we need to change our language. Stop calling it a midlife crisis. Start calling it a midlife chrysalis. As author Chip Conley puts it, the first half of life is about accumulating, the second half is about transforming. In the chrysalis, the caterpillar dissolves, literally turns to goo before re-emerging as something new. It's messy, uncomfortable, and utterly necessary. Your 40s are that chrysalis. It's the stage where the identity that got you here starts to dissolve, making room for a truer one to emerge. To navigate it consciously, do 3 things. 1. Conduct a relationship audit. Identify which relationships give you energy and which drain it. Invest intentionally in the former. Reduce time spent in the latter. Your emotional environment shapes your evolution. 2. Build a meaning portfolio. Don't stake your identity on one thing, especially not your job. Diversify your sources of meaning. Volunteer, mentor, create, learn. If one source dries up, the others keep you alive. 3. Practice radical self-compassion. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are human, navigating a demanding stage of life. Speak to yourself the way you would to a loved one, with patience, humor, and grace. The chrysalis isn't comfortable, but it's where wings are made. Conclusion day. For decades, we've believed a comforting but dangerous lie that our 40s are the emotional bottom and that misery is our destiny. But the evidence tells a different story. The U-curve is outdated, the midlife crisis is a myth, and the truth is far more empowering. Your discontent isn't the end of happiness, it's the beginning of awareness. It's a signal that your life is ready for an upgrade in meaning, not an escape. Tear up the old map, follow the compass of connection, and embrace this stage, not as decline but as transformation. Because if you do, your 40s won't be the end of something. They'll be the beginning of a second adulthood, one built not on chasing happiness, but creating it. The happiness lie kept us waiting. The truth sets us free.